Support this podcast via our Patreon and get more writerly goodness. Visit patreon.com/nanocast to join up.
Welcome to NaNoWriMo Every Month. My name is J. Daniel Sawyer. I'm the author of some 20 books, 34 short stories, and numerous articles and other things, and I am your guide on this journey to use NaNoWriMo to level up to professional output levels. Welcome to The Questions, episode 98. Today, Dave asks, I have finished about 5 first drafts of my novels, but have developed some sort of mental block in knowing exactly what my works need in cleaning and polishing them up. Can or do you recommend some reference source that could provide some roadside things to try to cover when undertaking the pain of self-editing? I know I tend to write sparse in first drafts or outline drafts, and so second drafts have a good deal of filling in the blanks so the readers can see what it was I was trying to paint during my first draft. Typically, second drafts take on about 50% more in overall word count. Even as a natural English speaker, I lack the natural skills or educational skills required when trying to edit my own works. It's ugly, let me tells you. He writes this deliberately misspelled. So, Dave, first of all, pop back a few episodes to where I answered your other related question about this. You're going to need someone else to proofread for you, and there's some ways to get yourself more comfortable with your grammatical chops. The rest of your process, it sounds like you're what, I don't know who it is came up with these terms, but I learned them from Chris Rush. It sounds like you're what Chris Rush would call an adder-inner. There's 3 basic types of writers. There's those that write fairly clean. They don't need anything but continuity fixes or whatnot. Then there's others who overwrite in order to keep themselves grounded, and as they go back through, they need to take things out because they explain the same things 5 times and that sort of thing. And then there's the type that writes very thin, and then as they cycle back through, they add in the detail. It sounds like you are this third type. So the first type is a flat writer, then there's the taker-outers, then there's the adder-inners. You are an adder-inner. There are no roadside reference books. I love that term. It's actually great. To guide you through this stuff, this is really what beta readers are for. If you're worried that you're writing thin and you don't know what to do about it, there's a couple of things I would recommend you doing. First is to practice writing thick. That doesn't mean you have to write thick in your first drafts. I know that the faster I get going, the thinner I tend to write. And by faster, let me rephrase. Because of my time script writing, I tend to write conversations very thin. I rely a lot on character voice and the rhythm of the conversation, and I don't put in the narration I should. And so as I cycle, go back through and read, I notice that my conversations are thin, and I bulk them out with details of what's going on so I keep the audience grounded and we don't slip into a white room. You don't want your audience to slip into a white room. A white room is where your audience isn't sensorially grounded in the situation. They're just hearing talking heads, or they're hearing you talk about details that could mean anything. You say shoes instead of stiletto heels or army boots. That you use nouns that are very generic rather than nouns that are very specific. Anything like that uses up words but doesn't create in your reader a sense of groundedness is going to lead at least a significant portion of your readers to a white room. And a lot of readers will put down books when they slip into a white room, and that's what you don't want to do. So, if you're writing sparse and then needing to add in, the first thing you need to do is figure out where you tend to write sparse. Are you writing sparse on your descriptions and details? Or are you writing sparse on your actions? Or are you writing sparse on your dialogue? Get a beta reader to go through a couple of your books and tell you where they get lost, tell you what they're missing, so that you can get an idea from a reader's point of view what you're leaving unsaid. Then cycle back through with an eye for those things, but cycle through, go through from the beginning, and if you can, get to the point where you're cycling through as you're writing, because it makes all of this a lot easier. But cycle back through and get yourself really into the story and flesh out while you're in the story. Don't be sitting there going, I need item A, B, and C here. Just read through, and anytime you start to feel like things are thin, close your eyes and imagine what's going on. and lay those details in. Just in situ. Lay them through and keep going. You talk about filling in the blanks so the reader can see what you were trying to paint. The paint is a really good metaphor. Lay in those brushstrokes and that richness, and lay it in straight from your subconscious. Go straight from the heart so that they can touch what it is that you were trying to do. Don't try to recreate it, but actually go all the way to get there yourself. There's all sorts of approaches to revision. I've read books on revision, and frankly, none of them have done me a lot of good. And the reason none of them have done me a lot of good is because they tend to be very prescriptive and formulaic. You want to tick these boxes as you go through whatever the process is that they're recommending. That's not a way that's going to help you become a really good writer. What it sounds like you really need is an audience. So I would invest some time in finding one or two good beta readers who will just tell you what they're feeling as they read. Tell you where they're getting lost, tell you where they're bored, tell you where they're enraptured. You need to begin to understand how the words you're using are affecting the people that you're speaking to. That will really help you develop to the next stage, because that information will give you a grounding. You won't be so lost. The other thing I've got to tell you is you've sent a few emails here. We've got some questions from you later on in this recording block as well. You express yourself very well. You're a perfectly competent writer and speaker. If you feel like you are deficient in some skill or another, learn the skill. And if you can't learn the skill, find a way to adapt around it. But don't keep running yourself down. That's a very effective way to sabotage yourself to a stop. And it sounds like from this question and your other questions that you have sabotaged yourself to a stop. You've got a number of novels in progress and you've not finished them, or you've just done a draft and you're not ready to release them into the wild because you're feeling insecure about them. You need to stop berating yourself, saying you don't have good skills with English. You do. You've written very coherent questions here. Your grammar is clean, your punctuation is intelligible, you've got the occasional vocabulary thing. Vocabulary things are easy for any proofreader to catch. You need to let go of this feeling of inadequacy. Your opinion about your own prose does not matter. All that matters is the audience's opinion. You need to stop worrying about feeling stupid or feeling like you're not good at things. Of course you're not good at things. No beginning writer is good at everything. Most beginning writers aren't good at anything. I certainly wasn't when I started. You get good through practice and work and dialogue with the audience. Get yourself audience members and let go of this vision of yourself as someone who is fundamentally crippled, who's fundamentally underskilled or flawed. You are a functioning human being with a fully functioning brain. You can learn anything you need to in order to get as good as you want to at whatever it is you want to do. In fact, the Freakonomics podcast is currently running a series on how this works neurologically. They're diving deep into neuroscience right now, which is hilarious for an economics podcast. Go and listen. It's latest and greatest stuff on what in self-improvement lore is bullshit and what's actually valid. You can do this, and you gotta stop running yourself down. Running yourself down like that is gonna get in your way more and more the further along you get. You want to start nipping it in the bud right away. It's useless. It doesn't do you any good, because anytime you're complaining about what you don't know, that's time that you're not spending learning the things you think you need to know. So instead of worrying about what you don't know, go and learn the things you do need to know. Like asking questions from this podcast, going and doing research on your own, practicing your writing, getting beta readers. All that stuff is good stuff. But stop running yourself down. It does you no good. It will in fact do you harm. It's not because you need to have a high opinion of yourself. Having a high opinion of yourself is just as bullshit as having a low opinion of yourself. What I'm trying to say here is, your opinion of yourself doesn't matter, except insofar as it gets in your way or gets out of your way. People are very rarely called upon to have opinions of themselves in life. And I don't know how old you are, but I know that right now in college, having an opinion of yourself is a very important thing. It doesn't carry through into the real world. Having an opinion of yourself is bullshit. Everyone does, but putting any importance on it, like it makes any difference in the world, is crap. What matters is what you do and how you deal with whatever your opinion of yourself is, high or low. Dwelling on that opinion of yourself is almost always the wrong thing to do because it does nothing except waste time. And I trained as a clinical psychologist, so I say this with some degree of authority. This is true even in cases when you're in therapy for working through crap that your parents or authority figures or other people in the world have inflicted on you. Your opinion of yourself gets in the way in therapy, too. It doesn't really matter. What matters is how you're dealing with the crap that you have to deal with. Being stuck on whether or not you're a good or a bad person. Being stuck on whether or not you're good enough to be doing the thing you want to do, or whether you're too privileged, or whether you've got too much oppression heaped on you, or whether you're too smart to be doing X thing, or whether you're ignoring your gifts to be doing Y thing. None of these things matter. They're all just noise. They get in the way of progress in a therapeutic environment. They get in the way of progress in a professional or an artistic environment. It's just mental masturbation, and it's nowhere near as fun as physical masturbation. So I know this took a bit of a left turn, but it's bleeding through all your questions. You have a very low opinion of yourself, at least insofar as your ability to express yourself in words goes. And that opinion isn't justified. And my guess is that that opinion of yourself is one of the things that's holding you back. I have many opinions about myself. I have no idea whether any of them are correct. I do know that none of them matter. And I know that they're getting out of hand when they keep me up at night, either because I'm feeling bad about myself or I'm feeling good about myself. And that has become the focus of my mental life. When that becomes the focus of my mental life, not a lot else happens, because self-obsession is kind of fun. It's also deeply unproductive, does no good at all, and it leads to depression and narcissism, which aren't very good for your relationships or your professional or artistic development. Part of getting out of your own way as a writer is allowing yourself to let go of the obligation to have an opinion about yourself or your abilities. What the world cares about, whether that world is your family or the wider world, and what the world remembers is what you do. It's how you act in your circumstances. It's how you treat people and how you pursue your goals. The world does not care about your opinion of yourself unless your opinion of yourself is getting in their way. Whether that world is your family or whether that world is history looking back at your work. So, get a beta reader and kick some ass. Thanks for sending in the questions. I'm looking forward to the next question of yours, which is in a couple of days. And I'll see you all tomorrow. NaNoWriMo Every Month is written and presented by J. Daniel Sawyer and produced by Artistic Whispers Productions. Visit our website at NaNoWriMoEveryMonth.com and leave a tip in the tip jar or join the Patreon to support this podcast. NaNoWriMo Every Month is copyright 2016 by J. Daniel Sawyer and Artistic Whispers Productions and is released under a Creative Commons Non-Commercial Attribution No Derivatives license.